The observation deck of the Celestial Harmony hummed with the soft vibrations of its quantum drives as Mira Solis pressed her forehead against the reinforced viewport. Beyond the transparent alloy, the void stretched infinite and indifferent, swallowing stars whole. She had been staring at nothing for 3 hours. "You need to toughen up, Solis," Commander Rakai had said 2 cycles ago, his chitinous mandibles clicking with disapproval. "Humans are supposed to be the galaxy's warriors. Act like it." Myra had nodded then, her jaw tight, her eyes dry. She had returned to her quarters and hadn't spoken to anyone since. The Xenithi didn't understand grief. Their species processed loss through logic, reassigning emotional resources to more productive neural pathways within hours of a traumatic event. When Rakai's clutch brother had died in a reactor breach, he had delivered the memorial speech with perfect composure, then returned to his duties within the hour, efficient, logical, strong. Humans weren't built that way. Myra's sister had died 3 weeks ago. Not in battle, not heroically just gone, erased by a malfunction in her colony's life support system along with 400 others. A statistical anomaly, a regrettable incident. Words that meant nothing when Nira closed her eyes and saw Sarah smile, heard her laugh, remembered the last message she'd sent. "Can't wait to see you next cycle, sis. I'm making that terrible cake you love." The cake would never be made. Sarah would never age another day, and Myra was expected to toughen up. She heard the door whisper open behind her but didn't turn. Probably another crew member coming to use the observation deck during their off shift. She'd leave soon. Let them have their peace. But instead of footsteps retreating, she heard small, pattering sounds, multiple sets of them. Then a tiny voice, high-pitched and uncertain. "Miss Myra?" She turned, surprised, and found herself looking down at 3 Kishari cubs. They barely reached her waist, their thick fur mottled with the spots that would fade as they matured. The species was newly admitted to the Galactic Council, their homeworld only recently achieving space-worthy technology. These cubs were the children of the Kishari engineers working in the lower decks. The smallest one, a female with a crooked ear, clutched something against her chest, a bundle of fabric in shades of blue and silver. Double quotes the cub started, then looked back at her companions for support. The tallest cub, his fur almost orange in the dim lighting, stepped forward. "We heard you were sad," he said simply. Myra's throat tightened. "I'm fine," she managed, the lie tasteless on her tongue. "Mother says humans lie when they hurt," the crooked-eared cub said, not accusingly, just matter-of-fact. "She says your species carries pain differently, that you hold it inside until it grows too heavy." The third cub, quiet until now, moved closer. "On Kesher, when someone grieves, we bring our blankets. The ones from our dens. The ones that smell like home." The small female held out her bundle. "This is mine. It was my grandmother's before. She sang to me in it." Myra stared at the offered fabric, something cracking in her chest. I can't take your blanket." "Not take," the tallest cub corrected. "Share." Before Myra could protest, the crooked-eared cub had climbed onto the bench beside her, spreading the blue and silver blanket across Mira's shoulders. It was small, barely covering her back, but it was warm and smelled faintly of cinnamon, and something else, something that reminded her of childhood, of safety, of home. The other cubs produced their own blankets. One was deep green with golden threads woven through it. Another was patterned with stars that seemed to shimmer in the observation deck's low light. They draped them over her carefully, almost reverently, until Myra was cocooned in their offerings. Then, without asking permission, all 3 cubs climbed onto the bench and pressed against her sides, their warm bodies radiating heat, their purring creating a soft vibration that traveled through her bones. "On Kesher," the tallest cub said quietly, "we believe grief is not weakness. It's love that has nowhere to go." Myra's vision blurred. The tears she'd been holding back for weeks finally spilled over, hot and fast, running down her cheeks unchecked. She made a sound half-sob, half-gasp, and the cubs pressed closer, their small arms wrapping around her as much as they could reach. "It's okay," the crooked-eared one whispered. "Mother says humans need to leak sometimes. That it's how you heal." Myra cried. She cried for Sarah, for the cake that would never be baked, for all the conversations they'd never have, and the future they'd never share. She cried until her chest ached and her eyes burned, and through it all the 3 Kishari cubs held her. their blankets wrapped around her shoulders like armor against the void. When Commander Rakai found them an hour later, he stopped in the doorway, his antennae twitching in confusion. Myra Solis, the human who was supposed to toughen up, was wrapped in colorful blankets. Surrounded by purring cubs, her face blotchy and swollen from crying. Solis, what is the meaning of— She's healing, the tallest cub interrupted, his voice firm despite his size. Humans heal differently than Xanathi. You should learn this. Rakai's mandibles clicked uncertainly. He looked at Myra, really looked at her, and perhaps for the first time saw not a soldier failing to meet expectations, but a being in pain. I don't see, he said slowly. Then, surprising everyone, he dipped his head in a gesture of respect. Carry on. After he left, the crooked-eared cub looked up at Myra. Will you be okay? Myra pulled the blankets tighter, feeling their warmth, their weight, their meaning. Yeah, she said, and this time it wasn't a lie. I think I will. The galaxy had told her to toughen up, to be the warrior humanity was known for. But these cubs, in their wisdom, had taught her something the warrior races had forgotten, that strength wasn't the absence of pain. It was the courage to feel it, to share it, and to let others help carry the weight. As the celestial harmony continued its journey through the stars, Myra Solis sat wrapped in blankets that smelled like home, not her home, but someone's home, and that was enough. That was more than enough.